Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition and the last kind of official edition of Big Hairy News for 2022. And welcome to the show. Long time no see, Penny Ashton. Hello.
Hello, kia ora. Nice to be here.
I just about said hello, sir, because that seems to be a way of kind of saying it. What would I say? Hello, madam? Would that be what's the official kind of equivalent to sir in the female realm?
Sup bitch, that works. Sup bitch. I don't know. Like I don't like madam. I don't like ma'am. I really don't like ma'am. I'm 48, not 75. I don't know. That just makes it feel like someone that I'm not. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Because I say hello, sir, quite a lot as well, actually.
Hello, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. I probably say
funny these words.
Yeah. I don't know.
I find that we in New Zealand have lots of words of which are gender neutral, and some of them are like man and bro. Because you say g'day, bro. I go through my text messages and I realize that I'm texting a female colleague, and I start with, "Hey man, what's going on?" So
yeah, but I sort of associate that with you, right? That's something that you say. I don't say that. Yeah, like I don't say, "Hey man." I say, "Yeah, man," like as a a sort of a mulling thing. Oh man, but I don't usually call people that. So it's interesting. And it's funny too. A lot of people use my full name. It's Penny Ashton. Oh, hello, Penny Ashton. I find that quite interesting. That's something that people do. So yeah,
I find my first name is obviously my birth name is Patrick. People who call me Patty have known me since I was knee high. So all my family, all my uncles and aunts, anyone like that calls me Patty. So I'm Patty to all of them. It's funny, my mother's maiden name was Mulligan, so I literally could have been a Patty Mulligan. Actually could have been. All my friends and stuff tend to call me Pat. People I know well. And people who I don't really know all that well tend to call me Patrick. Or if the phone goes and, is this Patrick Brittenden? It's like, okay, well, yes, is this the IRD? That's like the official kind of thing.
Yeah, I would be like, who the fuck is Patrick? Yeah, I don't associate you with that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, Penelope. But Penelope, the only time I get called that is the doctors, except it's usually then it's Penelope. Because often, like Filipino nurses and stuff, phlebotomists, etc., they go Penelope or Penelope. So it's something that confuses people. Yes.
So welcome to we are going to do a show on Monday night for lovely punters who are joining us. But it's going to be just a catch up last night, stories of the year. What do we think? What are we doing for the holidays? So this is sort of the last regular broadcast, although these aren't regular broadcasts because of my COVID this week. We're keeping them a bit shorter to help me sort of not overwork.
So how many shows have you done?
I was just looking at that. I literally thought I was just looking at what that was, but the first one was on the 28th of February. So that's February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So that's nine months at 4.3 plus another half. So 9.5 months at 4.3 weeks a year. Hang on a sec. Calculator. So I'll go 9.5 times 4.3. So that's about 40 weeks. So probably ticking over 200. There's been a few nights off. Public holidays we haven't worked. I had 2 nights off last week because of COVID. And I had 2 nights off when I had a really bad cold. So we might be just. It'd be really annoying if we got to Monday and I worked it out and was like, episode 199. I'll be like, shit. I might come back on Tuesday.
We'll just get party pop. That's still very impressive. I found out that I was in the top 98th percentile of content producers for podcasts in my it's the health and fitness with showy ovaries, my menopause one, and that blew my mind. I've done 61 in a year, and that put me in the top 98%. So so we're spitting out some shit.
Yeah, I think my department of conversation is at about 240.
Yeah, wow.
To high 230s, 238. So, and it's been going since 2018. So it's averaging more than one a week. But yeah, so August of next year will be 5 years. So even though I'm not doing as many of them now because of this project, my target is to be over 250 by the 5-year cycle, because then that will be one a week. But yeah.
I'm gonna do a season 3 next year, but because the first 2 seasons were mainly about menopause, but like fabulous women in their lives and some trans people and menopause. But now I'm just going to broaden it out to people in their bodies, so mainly women in their bodies. So,
I'm interested. The conversation, the trans conversation in menopause, is that female to male transition and menopause?
Yes. What happens? Well, and also though, I was talking to a trans woman's non-binary partner, married partner, and they were saying that when their wife couldn't get her estrogen during lockdown, she started having hot flushes. So it can affect actually everyone. But trans men who go through menopause and male puberty at the same time. So they go through, anger bursts, pimples, dry vagina, brain fog, everything all at once. So, they're really doing that for attention when it comes down to it. Anyway, it's just like bullshit. So they're putting themselves through that, which is huge, because they're wanting to live their authentic selves. So it's a lot.
It's funny when you got to stop and go, hang on, let me just work this out. When you say menopause, I had to go, now we're just working it out, and so that's it. Yeah, but I mean, look, and I thought we'd wrap up this week because you had COVID not too long ago, a few months ago, caught it in the mainland, July.
Quite a while ago.
And I'm getting messages, maybe not quite on the hour at the moment, but certainly lots each day. People wanted to check in and check on how we are. I have to say, this evening I feel really good.
Great.
I've had a pretty easy run of it.
Great.
And I think that's because 3 weeks before I caught it, I got a booster.
Of course.
Which means my immune system was at the peak to fight it off. I've been exhausted. I haven't been I've taken the dog up to the park because you're allowed to still exercise locally. And there was never any people there. And walking like 2 lengths of a soccer field, I'm done. So that's been it. But I haven't had the headaches. I haven't had the sore throats. I've got a bit of a cough now. But when you hear people saying like it's the worst flu I've ever had, I had none of those kind of flu-y symptoms.
Yeah, me too.
There's something going on which is pretty bad.
Yeah, I had no sore throat. I had no fatigue. I had a headache for a bit, but no cough at all, no snot, no runny nose, no nothing. But I've just fainted twice in the first day. And so then I had to go to hospital because they were like, you have to go to if you lose consciousness, you should go to hospital, apparently. I was like, do I have to? And they said, the ambulance people were like, we can't force you, but we really think that you should. And then I was like, you're not actors. I'm an actor. I should listen to the paramedic and go to the hospital. But I just knew it was going to be like an interminable wait. But it actually wasn't too bad. Yeah. And I just had to get a bag of IV fluids and then go home. And then for the next 6 days, I felt barely ill. But I'm still paranoid about getting it again. Well, for me, it's the paranoia of having to cancel shows.
Yeah. So have you got a busy schedule coming up over the Christmas period?
24 shows at Circa. 24 shows in a row, a full month. I've never done that anywhere in the world. It's the longest run I've ever done. I was so convinced that I was never going to get through it all because, I was that far past. I got another booster. I got my second booster on about 3 weeks before I started at Circa. Same thing. So that, helped me. And I also had a mask announcement asking people to wear a mask because then I wouldn't have to cancel, So I sort of put it back on them saying, please let me not have to cancel this for other people that are coming to experience this show. And I would say about 80% of my audience were wearing masks, which is much better than a lot of other shows I've done since to see the percentage of people wearing masks. So that was the Circa audience in Wellington. Yeah, and I got through all 24 and had a bloody great time. So then I did Hastings, and now last night I did the show at the Basement, the Christmas show, and I'm doing a show tomorrow night in Waiheke, which is called Laugh Actually, a Christmas improv show. So and then that's it for the year. So I'm still pretty paranoid. Like I cancelled a meeting with someone who was fucked off with me because but 2 nights ago because it was pissing with rain. I don't want to sit inside a pub. I just don't want to do it right now.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. Like I was going to say, I'm feeling. I haven't tested myself today. I was definitely positive yesterday. I sort of have an expectation. I'll put it this way: it wouldn't surprise me if I was negative tomorrow. Which would be great. Today is day 9 for me, so tomorrow would be day 10.
So you're allowed to go out regardless.
But we're not, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because you're still infectious.
You're probably not infectious, but you want to do the right thing and not pass it on. So why would you? Yeah.
Well,
but you can.
Yeah, well, I could have gone out on day 2 if I wanted to. It's not like against the law. It's just you're an asshole if you do.
Well,
But
no,
the
you're
reality,
supposed to isolate for 7 days. That is
but
the
it's not.
law.
Yeah, but it's not a law. Not anymore. It's not. No, it's not a
I thought it
law.
was.
It's a recommendation. No, they can't
Is it
stop
not the
anyone.
law?
No, there's nothing coming in from it. It's a recommendation. They're asking you to do it, but no one's turning up with handcuffs and a charge if you go outside your house and don't
But it
stay
is
in for
is
74 days.
it is the law though, is it not? It is the law even if no one's enforcing it.
I don't think so.
Right.
I
We should
I
look
could
that
be
up.
wrong. I'll
Yeah.
Google it when we put our thing. I could be wrong,
Yeah.
but
You do that.
either way, if you're testing positive on a rat, according to Anna Brooks and those people, then you're still infectious. So we're not gonna, even though you're allowed to go out, we're not gonna go wandering around town with a
I
positive
had a
test.
I had a flight booked for my day 8 or the day after, and happily that morning I tested negative as well. But like I sort of masked up crazy because I was in Christchurch. Obviously, I wanted to get home. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. The
Yeah.
one upside I found from having COVID this week is freaking weight loss, man. Like I've dropped 2.5 kilos this week,
Really? Wow.
which is massive, which is getting me right up because at one stage I was wondering if I'd be able to lose 50 kilos in a year.
Right.
And I didn't think I'd do it, but yeah, with that 2.5 kilos this week, it puts me at about 48.5 kilos for the year. So
fucking yeah. Well done.
yeah.
The other thing, of course, now you feel invincible for quite a while. Like that is the good thing about catching it, particularly around Christmas. That's good timing so that you can just enjoy Christmas now.
Yeah, and I've got family coming down from Auckland, and then I've got 2.5 weeks on Today FM to do after that. And so I was concerned I was going to catch COVID over the Christmas weekend and then have to cancel the shift.
Yes, after all your work. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, assuming that it still wraps up fairly okay for me, then I'm pretty free for 6 weeks to 2 months to live a pretty chilled life.
A less paranoid life, yeah. Because it was really good to get it over and done with. In like because I know you were quite paranoid about it before as well, about what it might do, because we're all worried about long COVID. And to get it and not to be too slammed with it was a massive relief. It really was.
Yeah,
but I was still passing out was shit, so I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, that sucks. I was talking to someone about it today. My opinion has always been, I don't know if paranoid would be the right word for me, cautious certainly, is that do what you can to avoid it. But I wasn't too worried about catching it purely based on the stats. I mean, the stats are for most people, it's not a big deal. But trying not to get it. And now that I've either currently got it or I just got over it yesterday, which I don't know what I'm testing today. Then now the plan is not to get it twice.
Yeah. But I just feel like we're all gonna keep getting it. The thing I'm pissed off about is that the government, like from going from this world leading vaccine response to this just lackadaisical bullshit now, it's like, why? Like my husband wanted to get a booster. He's 46, so he can't get it. It's like, what sort of bullshit is this? And apparently they're going to throw a whole lot away because they're expired. So anybody that wants a booster should get a freaking booster. And my friends in Canada can go and get a bivalent Omicron booster, just pop into the local pharmacy and get that. And they're not even in the country. It's like, well, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. So I'm pro this government response in many ways, but this particular point in time with the vaccine thing, I'm just perplexed.
I have not been pro this government's response since they cancelled the mask mandate and went to orange or whatever it was. That's when they started playing populist politics rather than making good health advice.
It felt they listened to those fuckers in Parliament, It really felt like they actually made a difference, which is such a small minority of people that were actually anything. And that has really pissed me off. Yeah. It's like, oh, we've given up now. That's it. It's all over.
But
hooray.
It's an easy way to think about it. And this is what I've been trying to talk to my kids about. It's like at the start, it was all like, do it for your nana, do it for your neighbor, keep the rest of the people safe. So you're doing it for other people. And the byproduct was you're keeping yourself safe. But now the focus is just do it for yourself. And the byproduct is you keep other people safe. So that's really all you can do is look after yourself. And in doing so, hopefully keep those around you safe, because you can't control no masks at school. I mean, my kids were still wearing masks at school, but 3 in a classroom, the rest of them weren't. And it's ripping through community again. We had a hospital visit yesterday, as people know who watched yesterday. And one of the reasons it was an 11-hour day is that Dunedin Hospital is overrun with people with COVID. Like they had to shut a ward down yesterday. So it's anyone who thinks that it's with the greatest respect to the fucking Prime Minister, the first summer we've had in 3 years without COVID hanging over us. What are you fucking talking about?
Just this, and trying to keep Matt safe. He can't get the bloody booster. It's like, You know, obviously, just
Well,
go and say you're immune compromised. Just say
yes,
what is it.
let me tell you something. I probably should be a bit careful because I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I'm not eligible for a 4th booster by age, but I
Mm.
have asthma, and
That's
that's
why I
one of
got
the
it.
criteria. That's one of the criteria, but unofficially, um, the people that were giving out the vaccines where I went are like, we just want people to get through. We want people to come and get vaccines, and so we're not. You know, if you say you've got asthma, if you say that it's serious, I mean, we're not going to no evidence one way or the other.
Yeah.
And we want people to get vaccinated. So
Yeah.
the people I experienced, and like, I was genuine because I've got asthma, but the
Yeah.
people the story that they said to me was, we actually want to get people vaccinated. So if you're someone who's in their, say, 40s who's not eligible and you want it, go
Just
give it a
say you've
go.
got asthma. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go give it a
because
go.
I did look it up because I do think that, if you're I think we're both similarly asthmatic. I use my Symbicort and I'm fine. And that they were actually theoretically not eligible, but I just went in Palmerston North and said, I've got this. And they were like, sweet, no worries. Completely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah,
ask for anything. So yeah, exactly. Just say because I'm just looking at this news story about how are they going to throw away a whole lot. I'm like, what sort of bullshit is this? Anybody, we
yeah,
should just be able to get them every 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, whenever we bloody want them to keep ourselves, especially for someone like me, who, if I get it, I have to cancel my job and I lose thousands of dollars.
yeah,
It's not like, oh, I can call in sick that day. I can't do that.
yeah.
So to me, it's reprehensible actually and irresponsible that they're not making this more readily available.
Well, as Melvin says in the chat, it's very strange indeed that Canada has rolled out their
Yep.
5th and 6th, and New Zealand isn't following suit. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
weird, isn't it? Because that's not even a populist thing. Because if the government said, "Get it if you want it," then the people who were like, "We don't believe in vaccines," wouldn't have to, and those that did want it would be able to do it. So
I know.
it doesn't seem to be it just seems to be a win-win should they do it. Now, I think they also said, we were talking to I don't know, one of the academics that comes on, who said that the Omicron specific one will be coming in the first quarter of next year. Why we don't have it already, don't know.
Yeah. And
But
the thing
yeah, I
is, to me,
mean,
it seems to be much more focused on the fact that it won't probably be very different health outcomes, for hospitalization and stuff like that with the additional boosters, but it helps you not catch it, which to someone in my position is, that means that, like, they've had to cancel so many shows all over the place. Like, all theater shows now have understudies, which they never usually have. Obviously, my
well,
solo show does not have an understudy. That would
understudy.
not be able to happen. Yeah, that would not happen. But the panto that's at Circa had to cancel a couple of days, and that's thousands of dollars right there, because of it. And no one was wearing masks. I went to see the panto. There's some people, but not very many people wearing masks. So
Yeah,
it's just
it is
such a
impacting it.
small fucking thing to do to keep the performers safe.
And also the personal responsibility as well. Like the Breakers, for example, basketball team didn't travel. They had to cancel a game. They were traveling to Australia to play a basketball game, and the rules of the NBL say you must be able to have 7 people available to play, 5 on the field, 2 reserves, and they couldn't do it because they've all got COVID. So they cancelled the game. So it's it's everywhere. Look after yourselves. Look, I guess I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite now because having just got over it, literally, I'm covered for a couple of months, certainly for a month or so.
That
But
doesn't make you a hypocrite.
to the rest of you guys, look after yourselves. You have to
But
look
that's the
after
thing too,
yourselves.
because will you be wearing a mask now, do you think? Or will you be like, "Oh, well, I'm fine because I just had it."
Not for a month or so, but then I'll go
Yeah.
back to it for sure. But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not. I mean, I'll have a bit of a break because I can. But for example, I was thinking about this today actually because my kids still wear masks. If we go out shopping this week, and they're wearing a mask, I'll probably wear a mask as well because they are. So I'll probably do it so then they're not the isolated ones in the room wearing a mask. So more of a support thing, even though
Yeah.
I know that I pretty much don't need to for a month. Pretty
Yeah.
safe for a month. But
Yeah,
yeah, so I
I'm
probably
wearing
still
them
will.
again in the supermarket and the bottle store and all of that sort of thing. Like, I was in this basement show last night and just seeing everybody so close to me without a mask, it was just like, ugh. And I'm just sick of it too because I'm a really social person and I have to stop seeing people and going places so I can do my work, and that's really shit too.
Well, it's also a trade-off, eh? Like how much risk do you take versus how many restrictions do you put on yourself? And we all have to decide that individually. Like, we're not sure entirely where COVID came into the house here, but there's 2 pretty big areas, which was a choice to go and attend an event. And that's probably where it came from. Now, the choice was made and it came in. And now that we've had COVID, it's now reassessing what are you going to do? What is the risk going to go of getting COVID again versus what restrictions you're going to put on yourself? And most people are still seemingly saying, I don't care if I catch, this is what people are saying, I don't care if I catch COVID, so I'm not putting any restrictions on myself. Whereas other people who don't want to get COVID will then choose to put restrictions. And I try and find the middle ground. So I haven't really stopped not seeing people, but I've engineered it to be outside, like outside at a cafe or around here at my place or
and
around
that's
at their place.
and that's exactly what I've been doing too, which is why I cancelled this meeting the other day because it was pissing with rain. Because Auckland has just rained nonstop. It's been twice the normal fucking rainfall, and so we were supposed to meet outside, and it was pissing with rain. I was like, I'm not going to sit inside a pub. Same thing. I've had people over here. I've met people outside, but this weather has been really shithouse for that. But Matt, my husband, has been going to he went to see the Chats. He's been to see the Charlatans. He's been to see lots, and he's still not had it. So, but we're going to a hotel for Christmas, and it's like, don't get sick. So, because tomorrow night is his work function that he's going to Holy Moly in town for his work function. So then it's like, but it's a Sunday. No, it's on Sunday he's doing that. So I'm hoping not many people are out on Sunday before Christmas.
Ava says in the chat, I'm still masking after a recent COVID infection. I don't want any kind of bug. No, thank you. Quite nice avoiding flus and colds.
Yeah, it really was.
Few years.
It really was. Like as soon as you get your cold, and I got it sick when I was in Wellington, but I did so many rat tests, it was bonkers. But I had something else where I felt a bit like almost like vertigo and stuff. But then you're like, is this because I did get dizzy and nauseous with COVID? And it's just the paranoia too. It does your head in when you're doing shows. You're like, I don't want to kill the old lady in the front row, so I'm just doing rat tests constantly. So yeah, it's a time.
All right. Maybe we've had the other thing I was going to say that I've not enjoyed, wrong word, byproduct of having COVID is I finally watched We Crashed on Apple TV. Have you seen We Crashed? It's a docuseries. It's Jared Leto and what's her name from Princess Bride. Princess Bride, is it name of it? She was Catwoman. This is my COVID brain. Anne Hathaway. There we go.
Oh, she wasn't in the Princess Diaries.
Princess Diaries, there you go.
Yeah.
Jared Leto and her.
Wasn't it Robin Wright in the Princess Bride?
Correct. Anyway. Yeah. Telling the story about an IPO called WeWork, a shared office space, and how they started and where they went, and the crazy story around it. It's on Apple TV, and I've been meaning to watch it, so I've watched that, and watch Wednesday as well on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Have you watched Slow Horses?
Say again?
Slow Horses.
No, haven't seen Slow Horses.
I was just watching it before I started talking to you. It's on Apple TV and it's hilarious. It's Gary Oldman. It's a spy thriller. He's bloody brilliant in it. It's really good.
So that's my experience this week. And I as I said, I'm not arrogant enough to say tomorrow I'll be negative, but I'll put it this way: the way I'm feeling tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if I was negative tomorrow.
Well, day 10, I would be surprised. Yeah, like that's clinging on quite some time. You're definitely negative after day 7. So yeah.
I've had lots of people who have said day 12, 13 is when they finally became negative. So
yeah, right. I was lucky ultimately, despite my opening day of drama and hospitals. Then I was really quite fine. Like I did my show 3 days later and it was completely fine. I was worried about the singing and dancing and jumping up and down, but no worries at all.
Cool. Hey, let's have a talk about, speaking of viruses, Elon Musk.
God, he's such a tool. I'm sorry.
So here's the first story. And one thing, I haven't checked my sound yet. Just tell me if you can hear this, Penny, before I push it into its entirety.
This just Elon Musk is suspending the Twitter accounts.
Okay. So here's a story about what's happening with Elon Musk at the moment. Elon Musk, the thinnest skinned man in the world,
I know,
has started banning journalists' Twitter accounts. Now, there are a bunch of right-wing journalists going, whoa, I can't believe you're complaining about this. This has been happening to us forever. Because a lot of those people who were banned by Twitter in the past who have been brought back were sharing mis and disinformation, conspiracy theories, dangerous information. Elon Musk seems to be banning people at the moment based on his whim when they say something about him. Which I guess it's a private business. He's entitled to do that. But it does show what a pathetic pile of crap he is, especially when it comes to this man who defines himself as a free speech absolutist. So let's have a look at the story with Donnie O'Sullivan, CNN reporter, who is one of the reporters who's just been banned from Twitter. Let's have a look.
This just in, Elon Musk is suspending the Twitter accounts of some of the journalists who cover Twitter, among them members of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN. our Donny O'Sullivan, who reported here last night on the controversial suspension of a different account, just had his account suspended this evening. So, Donny, last night you were sitting here, you were reporting on the young guy who is tracking, has been tracking the private jet of Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm. Let's just have a look at that first of all. So that story is an interesting one. Here's one news. Twitter has changed its rules after an account tracks Elon's jet. There was an account set up by this young fella called Elon Jet. There it is there. And there is, I don't know if you've got one, Penny, but I've got an app called Flight Tracker. And you can just open up the app and you basically see in real time planes flying around the world. You can click on them and it gives you the flight number. It clicks on private planes, helicopters, all sorts of stuff. It's publicly available information. So this young fella set up this account and he obviously put an algorithm or he programmed it somehow to always identify Elon's jet and where it was and where it was going. Now, Elon didn't like this, so he banned that account. And then he changed the rules of Twitter to say very clearly, now on Twitter, you're not allowed to identify where someone is located. So because this young guy had set up an account, and he kind of did it, and my understanding is as a bit of a protest around, kind of virtue signaling about things like climate change and stuff. But let's have a look how much, carbon that Elon Musk is creating, for example. That's the reason he did it.
Right.
And then Elon didn't like that someone had set it up and didn't like that he was being tracked with public. Everyone could find this information any day of the week they wanted to if they used the right app. So it's not like he did anything nefarious. And so he banned that account and then changed the Twitter rules. That's the story that Donny O'Sullivan was referring the night before. And because he reported on that story, he got banned. So he reported on the story that was news. And because he reported on that story, Elon Musk and Twitter banned him. We'll just continue with this story.
That's him. You did an interview with him and his grandmother.
Correct.
And apparently Elon Musk did not like that.
Yeah. So what's basically happened just really over the past hour or so, a number of journalists at national news outlets, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, and here at CNN, have been permanently, it seems, suspended from Twitter. Now, all those journalists, including myself, happen to be people who cover Elon Musk. This is Elon Musk, of course, who the free speech absolutist, who likes the First Amendment. Drew Harwell, who's one of the reporters at the Washington Post who was suspended, he put out a statement saying, Elon says he is a free speech champion and he is banning journalists for exercising free speech. I think that calls into question his commitment. Look, I mean, this is, as we saw with the jet tracker last night, Musk seems to be just stamping out accounts that he doesn't like. Look,
which is, kind of crazy given his
stance
the line
on
he's been
speech. Now,
let me just take a look at your. I think we have an image of your account.
Yeah, so that's what I see when I try log in right now. It says your account is permanently suspended, and it says after careful review that they decided to kick me off the platform. In the minutes leading up to the suspension, and we were reporting. We were doing our job. We were reporting on what was happening with the Musk jet situation. Musk had claimed as kind of a justification for taking down the jet account that there was an incident this week involving his child in Los Angeles. He claimed that a stalker, he described it, followed the car that his child was in, and he tried to link this to the jet tracking app. It's not entirely clear that there is a linkage there, but nevertheless, just a few minutes before we got kicked off Twitter, I had reported that the Los Angeles Police Department said they were aware of the situation and the tweet by Elon Musk and was in contact with his representatives and his security team. They did point out that no crime reports have been filed yet. But look, I think in terms of me personally, many of the national reporters at the Times and the Post, we're okay. I'm on the Anderson Cooper show. We have a platform, and just like when Trump got kicked off, we can post elsewhere. I do think this is very important about the potential chilling impact this might have for freelance journalists, independent journalists around the world, particularly those who cover Elon Musk's other companies like Tesla and SpaceX. I think this could have a real chilly factor.
Yeah.
People perhaps who are wanting to do, shows and put their information out there. Penny, what are your thoughts?
I think that Elon Musk has lost his fucking mind. I think that people's like, oh, so what about Twitter? But Twitter, I have a good time on Twitter. I have a good community on Twitter. Twitter is really useful for, emergency declarations, things like that. Twitter has a lot of uses around news, around connecting people around global events that happen, and everyone comes together and talks about it on Twitter. And he's just ruining it. He's utterly ruining it because of his ego, and he's a man-child, and all this sort of stuff is just, I just looked at that guy's account is still suspended just in case he thought maybe he'd done something wrong, but clearly that's not what he does. And he's just one big mess of hypocritical bullshit. I just think he's bullshit. There you go. And maybe I'll be cancelled now with my 2,000 followers on Twitter.
So just to show you exactly what it means, right? This is a flight tracker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Everybody became aware of those during 9/11 when suddenly there were no planes anymore.
But if people haven't seen these, this is all literally publicly available information. Private jets, everything. So let's just click on a random flight here in New Zealand, whatever that one is there. There you go. That is a C510. That's probably a private plane, actually, a Cessna 510 Citation Mustang. So this is all available. There you go. There's an Auckland to Wellington flight going on right now with the tracking where it actually is and where it's been. So it's not nefarious. The only thing is he linked this Twitter account to Elon's actual plane. Or if someone wanted to stalk Elon and turn up to whatever he's trying to claim, happened to his child, they could do that anyway because it's all available.
Yep.
So it's not really an excuse. The other thing is
he's not paying rent now.
Yeah, well, that's coming next.
Yeah,
we're gonna play a bit of that as well. But it's the idea is there's a couple of things, right? The first thing is, and this is not to defend Elon Musk, but let's just be blunt about this, is he doesn't have to abide by free speech because it's a private owned company. He can do what he wants. If he wants to kick someone out of his restaurant, he can for whatever reason.
Yeah,
but he's a hypocrite. Yeah, but he's a hypocrite.
It's the whole point that he bought it, right? The whole point to buy it. And has Trump actually tweeted anything?
I don't know. He certainly hadn't. I don't know where he's at now, though.
Yeah, because they've reinstated him. And I've gone to look, like, as soon as they reinstated him, and he actually hasn't used it. And I find that fascinating. So it's like the whole point of you buying this was to do that sort of thing, and then he doesn't actually do it. I find that very interesting.
I like this comment from Paul. I don't know if this is true or not, Paul. If it is, it's fantastic. Paul says he offered the kid $5,000 to shut it down a month ago. Kid said nah, so he spent $44 billion to buy the platform and ban the account.
Right. Imagine that was the whole reason.
I don't know if that's true. But the thing is, when you highlight it and bring attention to it, what you then do is get other people. It's the Streisand effect, isn't it? Like Barbara Streisand has a house, I think, in Hawaii, and she wanted Google Maps to not have her house on Google Earth. Right. And because she made such a fuss about it, now everybody knows where Barbara Streisand's house is. I think that's the story behind it. And it's the same thing that's going to happen here. Imagine how many accounts are now going to set up linked to his jet because he had made such a big fuss about it, and because it's become such high profile. And I don't know what, I guess, again, it's a private company. He can put that rule in place if he wants about not identifying where people are. But then how do you then go to a concert and take a photo of people who are at that concert? Because that's identifying where they are. How's that all going to work?
I mean, it's just that he seems to have the most thin skin in the world for someone who is such a wonderful, free speech until it affects me. And it's just, it's actually astonishing. Like now I guess I shouldn't be surprised anymore. When it all first started happening, after he'd made such a song and dance and then spent like ridiculous sums of money on something that, he's obviously losing money and hand over fist is buying it seems to me. It's just, he's actually insane. Like he's actually insane. There's, no two ways.
I am fascinated to see what happens from here. Will this be the death of Twitter? I don't know. The numbers of people joining Twitter is going up at the moment.
Is it?
But yeah, I mean, well, I should caveat that by saying, Elon has tweeted out, graphs of accounts that have been joined. Now, whether they're just, people rejoining who had been banned in the past or not, I'm not sure.
Or disaster tourists.
But the thing is, as well, is if it doesn't make money, and now let's go into the story that you've just highlighted, then it's doomed to fail as well. And with the changes that Elon has made, whether they're good or bad, whether people support them or don't, the advertisers are fleeing. And if the advertisers are fleeing for whatever reason, because much like Elon can remove anybody that he wants because it's his company, advertisers can flee if they want because that's their money and their company. So the reason, the rhyme or reason behind why these decisions are happening is not even really all that important. It's just that it's happening. And if it flees, if advertisers flee, then there'll be no money, and then it will go bankrupt. I mean, we can already see what's happening. So let's play a little story. It's only 90 seconds, I think, from Yahoo Finance, talking about what you just brought up, Penny, because it's becoming more and more evident that the financial situation with Twitter is becoming more and more dire. I don't think it says it in this story, but I did see another story earlier that talks about him not paying rent, and it's not just on the San Francisco office. Another story that I saw said he's not paying rent on any of the Twitter offices anywhere in the world. Now, we can check that, but that was certainly reported in another story. Let's have a look at this one.
Is now the world's second richest man, Elon Musk, behind on rent? The New York Times reporting Twitter has stopped paying rent on its offices and is considering not paying severance packages to former employees. Now, that follows news that Elon Musk dissolved its Trust and Safety Council, the advisory group of around 100 independent civil, human rights, and other organizations that the company formed in 2016 to address hate speech, child exploitation, suicide, self-harm, and other problems on the platform. Again, this is New York Times reporting as per the rent and severance, but follows just a string of erratic news from Twitter. It is not entirely clear where this platform is headed from here, Sean.
It certainly is not clear. And we also know that that ideas that Elon Musk puts forward initially aren't always implemented and go through a couple of iterations until actual change is made. But this is pretty astonishing, I think, once you take a step back and realize that they haven't been paying, if this is in fact true, haven't been paying rent on their San Francisco office. Also, $197,000 bill from private flights that were used during the first week of Elon Musk's takeover. That has not been paid. Apparently, this is according to a court filing in New Hampshire. And then also just talking about if they don't pay the severance payments for these employees that have been laid off, the consequences of that, whether or not that's illegal. And he's also apparently threatened to sue employees if they talk to the media today.
I mean, it's very a Trumpian playbook, right? Sue me, and I'll sue you, right? It's go to the courts, fight it out. I'm gonna pay rent right now. I'm not gonna pay your severance. But it's a very kind of costly gamut to do, especially when you're trying to reform a company that's Twitter right now in the crosshairs.
So there you go. And the Trumpian language is very evident. I mean, Trump is famous for getting people to do work and not paying them, not paying his rent, not paying his lawyers, and I don't know. This is either going to go very badly in the courts for him. The problem is he is the world's second richest man. If the courts get tied up for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years with employees trying to get money he owes them out of them, that'll be incredibly harmful to those employees. But he'll just keep on keeping on. And it won't affect him at all.
It's actually disgusting. It's like the Trump, you watched those documentaries with people that like cake makers and all this sort of shit that he was just like, I'm just not paying you. And he can just do that. And it's what the shit thing about capitalism and people with deep pockets, should I say. They can just do that. It just makes he's just a pig. He's a pig.
Yeah, it is going to be very interesting to see what happens again. I heard another story today that said Tesla has lost half its value this year.
Jesus.
So,
what is Grimes doing through all of this? I just Google Grimes news. What are you doing?
What are you doing with yourself, Grimes?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can see people in the chat talking about Mastodon.
Yeah, Mastodon. Yeah,
Mastodon. I tried to sign up, and I think they've been over like a month ago, and I still haven't managed to get myself in there. But there are people saying that I don't know if you've noticed in Twitter bios now, people are putting their Mastodon links as well. People are saying in the chat that is becoming an issue for Twitter, and that's getting treated as spam or something like that if it can identify them.
Right. So they've actually broken up. I didn't realize they'd broken up. Something said ex-partner. Anyway, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's just a shit show, and it's a shit show, and it is I think it's really sad because I do think Twitter had various different communities of all different, obviously mine was very curated left-wing Twitter of people that talked about shows and theater and various other things that we agree on and have a nice time, and there's a lot of different groups out there on Twitter for that. And I think it's sad. It's just like Facebook as well. Facebook is so good, but then so shit at the same time. But it's been really good for different groups that I'm in, and it's actually really good for advertising for theater, Facebook. But I just hate it as well so much about it. It's terrible customer service.
I mean, any technology is amoral, yeah? It's neither good nor bad. It's how it gets used that converts. That's the intention behind what's happening. So if you're using Facebook to advertise a product, yeah, so be it. That's great. If it's a good place to get your adverts.
Yeah, but they've got terrible customer service. Terrible customer service as an advertiser.
Terrible. Yeah, I've got a contact in the building. I just go straight to them if I have a problem anymore.
And I'm still having problems. Somebody hacked into my page and deleted one of my pages, which happily is one that I don't use very much. But I have tried to get in top, and they've made me like an employee on my own page. But they don't seem to be able to do anything else apart from this other. But I'm just like, can we just get this fixed? And it just still hasn't been fixed. And I'm just girding my loins to bring them one day because I just can't be fucked. But anyway, I'll do that.
All right. So, if anyone out there is Mastodon and you're involved with the New Zealand, I think it's like a server, mastodon.nz, then feel free to get in touch. I've tried to join, hasn't worked. But look, I mean, as you say, with your 2,000 followers on Twitter, your tweeple, I'm a bit the same. It's like I use it for a bit of fun. I look around, this goes up on it, the odd kind of conversation. I like using it for events, watching the rugby with people and you messaging away. But
completely,
I just think that I kind of caught in two camps. It's like it's making Elon Musk look like an utter fool. That's the thing. He was the guy that made electric cars cool for a while, and he had a lot of credibility in society for that. And that's all gone. It's all out the window. And he's just
completely shot himself in the foot.
Yeah, it looks like he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's gone from kind of being quote unquote boy genius, not a boy, but man genius, to what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yep.
All right. Now, speaking of money, I apologize to all the messages coming. I see you guys are talking to each other. That's great. Keep on that going. There might not be a chance for us to put too many messages up there because we're operating all by ourselves tonight. So we'll keep on going. I brought this up last night, but I wanted to bring it up again tonight. And delve a bit more deeply into it. People who were with us last night obviously know why we had a shortened show last night. But I wanted to highlight this before we wrap up for the year, because there's been a lot of talk about, let's be blunt, how terrible the economy is and how terrible this government is for doing what it's done to the economy. There's not been a lot of talk that looks around the world and sees, other than from us, looks around the world and sees that where New Zealand's placed on things like inflation, on things like where the economy is, like things like unemployment, that we're actually doing pretty well on a global scale. There's also not been a lot of talk by pundits in the media about, high fuel prices, let's say, right-wing country over here, high fuel prices, left-wing country over here, high fuel prices, communist country, high fuel prices. So the point being, maybe it's not the government, maybe there's external factors that are causing the high petrol prices. So because of all that conversation that's been going on, I think it's important to at least acknowledge the stupendously strong economy that New Zealand has at the moment, according to the ASB, right? Stupendously strong.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're hearing is the opposite of that by, it feels to me, and I could be wrong, by 80% of the commentators and pundits in the media, who are saying how terrible it is, how bad it is, how poor it is, how this government can't do anything, how Grant Robinson's achieved nothing in 5 years. Yet the people who have to kind of move the money around, who have to make the commentary on the economy from a neutral place, are describing Q3 as stupendously strong. And I think that's an important thing to acknowledge. Let me read a bit. New Zealand's economy grew more than twice as much as economists expected in the third quarter, underscoring the difficulty the central bank faces trying to damp demand to curb inflation. GDP jumped 2% from the second quarter, when it gained an upwardly revised 1.9%, Stats New Zealand said yesterday. Economists forecast a 0.9% increase. From a year ago, the economy expanded 6.4%, exceeding the median estimate of 5.5%. The data are stupendously strong, said Nat Keel, an economist at ASB Bank in Auckland. The starting point for economic activity is substantially hotter than the Reserve Bank of New Zealand will have anticipated as it embarks on the remainder of the tightening cycle. The RBNZ is aiming to engineer a recession in 2023 to suppress demand and rein in inflation. Now, I've got a bit of a story to play to kind of back this up, Petty, but you're welcome to jump in first to share your thoughts about the news that New Zealand's economy is currently stupendously strong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, I'm no economist and it does make me glaze over a little bit, but when unemployment is so low, that's going to drive need to want to buy things, etc. It's when a whole lot of people get out of work, which it almost feels like the Reserve Bank wants to happen, right? They seem like they want to engineer it so that people are losing their jobs so we can have a recession.
Well, they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they do.
And they speak about that in such esoteric terms, wherein actually, the people that are trying to pay all these things and etc., the people that were losing their jobs, who potentially lose their houses, and then the Reserve Bank's like, yay. So it's very hard to reconcile, them thinking that they're doing a good thing, which potentially they are, the overarching thing. The actually minutiae of the people on the ground that are going to be losing their jobs and won't be able to fucking pay for food. But when we have such a shortage of labor, when we don't have enough people coming into the country to do the jobs that we need, it's the same in the whole world doesn't have enough people anymore. It's like every country is advertising and having labor shortages and all this sort of stuff. It's like, I mean, I know that some people have died obviously from COVID, but not that many people. It's just weird. Like where have all the employees gone? Anyway, to me, that's, like we just don't have enough workers. Well, there'll be jobs for anybody who needs them. So then,
yeah, and look, the Reserve Bank is doing exactly that because it's pretty clear that one of the reasons that inflation got to 7.8%, whatever it was, is because the Reserve Bank, when they make changes, it takes about 9 months to come into effect. They thought the economy would be in a worse state than it was. So they made predictions, they made modeling based on that. And then when that didn't happen, they put more money into the economy. So when you have more money chasing fewer items, you get inflation. So actually, they've actively said we need to have a higher unemployment to get inflation back down. We need to go into a recession to have to have the inflation come down. Now, my question has been the last few nights about this is actually, how much can we fucking trust these models? They've been wrong all the way through this.
Yeah.
And the only thing we seem to be able to nail down is hard data, like the inflation rate, that's hard data, like the unemployment rate, and like the GDP. And at the moment, the GDP, I'm not saying it's going to continue to grow like it is, but it's a really good result for the economy, even though, and what I hear you saying, Penny, is something we often say here, anecdotal evidence, i.e. people's individual lives, may not be represented in the data. Like someone's individual struggles might be very real, but the data overall is saying the economy is currently expanding. And, all the people who have been talking about how terrible this government has been handling the economy and what damage they've been doing are all very quiet. They're either very quiet at the moment or they're the squirrel. That's what they're doing. Squirrel and looking away.
But I reckon, that some of them will spin this into a bad thing because then inflation's going to run away, and then that's going to be the government's fault as well.
They will blame the government for the failings. They'll blame government for things like high inflation. They'll blame the government for things like high, petrol prices. But then they won't give credit to the government for things like an expanding economy and growing GDP.
Do. And that's why politics can be so fucking annoying. Like, I've stopped watching the news, which is bad for a news junkie. I've just gone, I just can't deal with this bullshit anymore of this endless lying and manipulation of the data to whatever it is. And that, like people actually standing there barefaced lying and saying things that are not true, and that blaming the government for things that are happening the world over. And just offhand remarks of people like Jessica Mutch Mackay and stuff that just go, well, they'll be thinking this. And I just go, but will they, Jessica? Will they? And it just really irritates me.
I tend to listen to what the politicians and stuff are saying. And do you know what the theory of the black swan is? The black swan theory? For people who don't know, the black swan theory is quite simple. The way you disprove the statement all swans are white is to find one black swan. So you can disprove that statement, all swans are white, with only one example of one black swan. So when you hear people like Christopher Luxon talking about, the health, how New Zealand's health is going and what's been achieved in the health, and he constantly says things like there is not a single positive marker, there is not a single this, there is not a single thing you can point to. One of the few countries in the world where our life expectancy has gone up.
Yep.
There's a single marker. So therefore his statement is false because we have a black swan. I mean, there's more than that, but all you need is one example to be contrary to the statement to disprove the statement.
Soft on crime. It's just stop repeating the same fucking sentence over and over and over again. It's like they can see a little jumper starting to unravel by this one thing, so then they just pull and pull and pull and pull at the same thing, and then it starts to become this true narrative. And yes, we obviously have some issues currently around youth engagement, and then Wayne Brown wants to come along and take away initiatives that are aimed at youth engagement to stop them committing crimes. It's like, oh my god, I'm surrounded by morons. So that's why I stopped watching the news.
We talked about Wayne Brown last night and his lovely off the cuff comments that got airport to shut down share trading
shares.
Because that's a good businessman, who causes one of our biggest companies to have to shut down trading.
And who doesn't understand how art galleries work or anything like that? It's like they don't even have all the pictures on display. Oh my God. How on earth did so many people vote for this man?
I've been had a request. We did a clip earlier in the year, and I won't play the video, I'll play the audio of Christopher Luxon. I'll play this for you, Penny, in case you haven't heard it before. This comes from one 9-minute media scrum. Okay. This is all of this. I've edited some audio together. And it's all from one 9-minute media scrum. Okay. So you have a listen to what Mr. Luxon's got to say.
And the third thing I'd say to you is we just clearly haven't got the appropriate consequences in place for serious offending like we're seeing here as well. There has to be consequences, youth offending consequences. We know where the consequences of this actually is for them for the rest of their life. Really it's about making sure we've got appropriate consequences. No consequences. We have to have consequences. Consequences as a result. Consequences of crime. Consequences. Clear set of consequences. And that's what we're saying here, to just enforce some consequences and actually make sure you know where your young person is and that you're actually getting them to school.
So there was a narrative there. He was trying to talk about consequences.
Just a touch.
I don't know if you picked up on that. That was from a 9-minute media scrum.
For the rest of their life as well. Like what? Yes, we want people to learn and not be recidivist offenders, but just for the rest of their life, these young people, what are you going to throw them in? I mean, because obviously that's how it works in America. 150-year sentences, and look at how their rate of recidivism is so much worse than the rest of the world. It's just like, Anyway.
Nick's got an idea. Everyone should hit the like button. Just saying, that's a good idea, Nick. I think you just put that out there for people to see as well. Hey, let's just actually go to the video from this conversation about the GDP and the economy at the moment, because I think it's important that we actually give some people who know what they're talking about some airtime as well.
The economy is surpassing expectations thanks to New Zealanders' travelling and spending habits. The latest quarterly figures reveal an unexpected economic growth. The gross domestic product was up 2% in the last September quarter compared to the previous year, and GDP is up nearly 3% annually. It means economic activity is up 8% above pre-COVID levels, and Kiwis clearly love to fly, with an almost double-digit increase in transport and travel. Other sectors on the rise are construction, up after 2 quarters of decline, and goods and services are up too. With what this means for the economy heading into 2023 is business correspondent Katie Bradford.
Snaking queues, overloaded trolleys, excited tourists. Travellers back, despite increasingly expensive flights.
Because I've been traveling a lot and I've been seeing like the queues are getting more and more, and kids are coming up, school holidays, so it's getting more busier.
Excited like a little kid. Okay, really, Merry Christmas to you all.
It's more expensive. I think because of there are now more demands from, the tourists are coming in,
Travel and transport leading the unexpected boom in the economy over the past few months. Inflation and labour shortages continue to be the biggest constraints. Globally, inflation has started to slow, but not enough, with the United States Federal Reserve lifting interest rates again today.
Reducing inflation is likely to require a sustained period of below-trend growth and some softening of labour market conditions.
And today's data makes it more likely our Reserve Bank will follow suit and lift interest rates again in February. But as those rates go up, petrol prices are going down, international oil prices falling, just in time for the good old Kiwi summer road trip.
We're going off on a road trip, so we're going from here to the South Island. So we're looking for as cheaper diesel as we can get.
At this time of year, I think any bit of savings counts. There's a lot of strain on lots of families out there.
A bit tough, yeah. Some if groceries go down, that'd be great as well.
And while goods and services are booming, primary industries are finding it tougher. Bad weather, fuel and fertiliser prices, and those labour shortages playing their part.
Whilst the commodity prices have seemed good that we're getting, the increases in their costs and those key inputs have been quite a lot, so it is squeezing that margin.
A shallow recession still expected to hit next year.
This is going to be a challenging time. There's good news here, though, which is we've got a much stronger starting point for dealing with that difficult 2023 because of the strong economic growth.
I think that he's gaslighting New Zealanders. He's trying to tell them things are okay.
No, he's not. He's saying that we have a good starting point. And he's being really honest. It's like 2% GDP growth is a starting point, and it's better than it could have been. So there's no gaslighting. Gaslighting by definition is saying the opposite thing to what is actually true. What he's saying is it's quite a good point to start from, whilst acknowledging that there are still, this is the squirrel bit, right? If there's a response, it's squirrel, look away, squirrel, look away.
When they know it's not okay. A recession means people losing their jobs. It means some people will lose their homes. It means many families will be in hardship.
So while many enjoy...
So there you go. That'll do from there. And obviously that's the squirrel look away. Nobody look what's going on here because...
is that what you're doing with your dog?
It's a good result. Yeah, she's just popped in to see us. People want to see her. The only reason that half the people turn up, Penny, is to come and see Nala. So yeah, so that's the I wanted to highlight that. It's kind of going out on some good news to sort of wrap the year up a little bit. Is that the economy? Let's put it really bluntly and plainly. The economy is doing far better than was expected.
Indeed.
Doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean there's no worries. Doesn't mean there's not going to be issues next year. But everyone should be celebrating, I guess, that the economy is doing better than expected and better than most countries. Most countries' GDP is not increasing right now, and most countries aren't expanding their economies like ours is right now. So that's it. We can accurately say that. Better than it could be, better than expected. That's a win leading into Christmas.
Huzzah. There we go. Hooray, 2022.
Yeah, so that'll be just about us for the night, I think. You think you want to wrap up on Penny? Do you want to tell people about anything that's going on?
Well, do you know, in February, it'll be 10 years of me doing Promise and Promiscuity, my Jane Austen show. And so I'm going to go back to lots of places I've been before with it, like Nelson, Blenheim, Christchurch, New Plymouth, Palmerston North, and various other places. So look out for that. I'm also running my new show, The Tempestuous, a Shakespeare show. And and I'm doing my Showy Ovaries live. I'm doing it in the Comedy Festival with Justine Smith, which is going to be great. And I'm also doing it with Elizabeth Esther at the Hamilton Gardens Festival, where I'm also doing Enid Blyton's Naughty Threesome. There you go. Enid Blyton Naughty Threesome with Laurie. Oh, and we got funded. Oh my God, by Creative New Zealand. Arts on Tour got defunded, but it's been picked up again now. And so then August, September, October next year, we're touring Austin Found, Laurie Dungy and I, and Robbie Ellis as musician, and going all over the country for 33 dates doing Austin Found. So yeah, there's a lot of shows on.
Are you excited to be back to it? I mean, we were actually talking, we had Jeremy Elwood on Wednesday night, and we were talking a little bit about theatres, and he goes, talk to Penny about this. And we were talking about touring the country and the gap in the market there seems to be in New Zealand for kind of locations of maybe 12 to 1,500 seats. There's like the 300 seats and there's the 5,000 seats. Would you echo that with your experiences?
I don't need anything more than 300. Like I usually play 1 to 200 seaters. In Nelson, I'm playing a 400 seater. And that's because Nelson really comes to support me. But this is just me by myself, right? So like if Elwood's touring with some more famous people off the tally and stuff like that, potentially. But yeah, I mean, when I think about it, yes, like Christchurch, like where do you go between? Yeah, there's a lot of lacking of that sort of number. Just thankfully I've never had to try and source one for myself because I'm not that famous. And I just have a good time. Like I did 24 shows in a row. I mean, I would prefer to do probably less shows in a bigger space, but Circa 2 is a really lovely, intimate theatre space, though it was, therefore I could see my spit flying around hoping that I wasn't sick for other people. So there's something about that, but it's just this really immediate, lovely space. And I like up to a 200 seater sort of thing is cool. I mean, in Hastings, I had 350 people once, so that was exciting as well. Nice. But I'm generally in that 200 sort of mark. Yeah. And then you can do pretty well when it's just you. I mean, it's just me on the road. I hire technicians wherever I go. So my costs are low.
Yeah, I remember we're going to talk about different scales of economy here, Penny, but I remember going to see Ed Sheeran at the Dunedin Forsyth Bar. And the one of the main things I thought was one man on stage doing everything himself to 35,000 people. Holy crap.
Was he by himself?
Yeah.
He didn't have no musicians?
Nope. Did everything all through the loop pedal, did it all himself. One man. And I was like, that's how you maximize your return on investment. Just the one person.
People said that to me in Circa. They're like, how many people in your theatre co-op? And I was like, 1. And then going, oh, okay. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I highly recommend it. It works out. It works out.
Let me also say, if you're interested in supporting us and what we're doing, patreon.com/Big Hairy News. We are going to have, and if you are already a patron, you'll have got the message, a meetup tomorrow morning, a virtual meetup. We were going to do Penny a meetup in the BHN Christmas barbecue, which was going to be tomorrow night, but we've cancelled that because of COVID, because of recovering from COVID. So we've turned it into a meetup during the day, normal time, 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. If you're a patron and you want to come and join us, go check your messages. I've already sent you the link. If you're not a patron yet and you want to be a part of what we do, patreon.com/Big Hairy News. And if you get in the next kind of 12 hours, if you feel so inclined, I'll make sure to send you the link so you can come and join us for the meetup tomorrow morning as well.
And I've got a Patreon too. I have 7 whole patrons. How many do you have, or are you not sharing?
Oh, about 30, I think. We were going to try and get to 50 by Christmas, but I think what the universe has heard was lose 50 kilos by Christmas, not get 50 patrons. So, we'll take it.
Right.
We'll take
30
it.
is great. My 7 they've paid for my hosting of my podcast. My friend Sonia Renee has 3,500 patrons.
It's truth. I've seen you go looking when you want to have a look around to be impressed. You go looking at some of those American podcasters that are doing like $100,000 a month in Patreon. It's madness.
Sonia will be and Amanda Palmer, she's got 10,000 patrons, I think. So that's and she lives on Waiheke Island having a very nice time.
Sounds good to me. All right, team. We're done. Thanks, Penny. It was really nice to have you on to kind of before the year wrapped up.
With my festive outfit and my slightly sweaty. It's very muggy in Auckland. Oh my God, it's so muggy. Yeah, it's really muggy. It's really hot.
That's the other thing that's hit me with COVID is the sweats. It's like do 5 minutes of something and you're like, oh God, I'm sweating now. So the body temperature fluctuating up and down and up and down and up and down. But it's us.
Helping you lose some weight. There you go. Hooray. COVID is weight loss.
All right, team. Hey, thanks for doing our side. Thanks for being with us, Penny. It's been a blast, and I'm sure we will see you in 23. The 2023. Oh, it's Jordan's year next year. Yay. I can start talking about Michael Jordan more. The world's greatest basketball player, number 23 for next year.
Don't ask me about that. Right.
If you're a patron, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. if you want to join us, go check your messages. If you're not a patron, but you want to join us for kind of the wrap-up show, then pardon me, Monday night, me and Chewy will be here. Others might be coming and joining us for a bit of a general chat. We might talk a little bit about news. If there's anything big in the news, we might talk about it. But that's going to be the last one for the year. So make sure you join us. Don't join late or you might miss out. And we might even open up the old Discord on Monday night if you want to jump on and have a bit of a chat with us as well about the year that's gone. All right, team. Lovely to see you again. Thank you, Penny. And to everyone, we'll catch you either tomorrow morning or Monday for the last episode for the year of Big Hairy News. Should we go, Nala? Time to go? Okay, time to go.
Okay, bye-bye.